the channel. I'm back to break down this 7-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Excited to get into the breakdown, give you guys the top plays to get you in the green as always. Before we do, a quick reminder that if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. I'll be here all NBA DFS season long, breaking down these NBA DFS slates. Help you guys win some money, help you guys become better NBA DFS players. And if you are getting very serious about NBA DFS, I would highly recommend my NBA DFS premium package. That's linked below in the description. You get access to all the same tools that I use when building my own NBA DFS lineups, my projections, all the Vegas data. You're seeing a little bit of a sneak peek on the screen, but obviously a lot more to offer. Core plays, team stat summary, half-court putback stats, transition stats, on and on and on. All stuff that you can be using to make the most effective lineups when building your NBA DFS lineups. So, don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my lock of the night. Hopefully you played Montrezl Harrell last night. Absolutely went off. He was an easy lock for me. Don't get me wrong, he was a very popular play, but just had to play him, and he proved that that was the case. So, nailed the lock of the night. Looking to keep that going on this one, and let's go ahead and get into it. As always, we're going to go game by game here. Orlando taking on Toronto. First game on the slate. Pascal Siakam continues to be listed as out. As far as anyone else in this game, that's about the only injury news that we have. This game right now comes in with a 210.5 over-under with an 8-point spread in favor of the Toronto Raptors. This game expected to be a very slow-paced game, slowest on the slate, I believe. And so, for that reason, my interest is going to be pretty limited. But on the Toronto side, the rotations are pretty solidified and they play a lot of minutes. So even though it's expected to be slow paced, these guys should have plenty of opportunity. Fred VanVleet, 37, 39, 43, 37 minutes, 50 and 52 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. So I do think I'll have interest in him and Mr. OG Anunoby as well here at 6'8". Same thing's going to apply for him, playing massive minutes. The roles are really expanding here in Toronto for them with there being no Pascal Siakam. And the same can be said for Scotty Barnes and Achioa as well. I mean, these guys are just playing massive minutes, so no issues with you playing them in your lineups for that reason. Chris Boucher, a guy I really wish was getting more minutes because he is an absolute fantasy point per minute beast, but he's just not getting the minutes right now, so that's a no from me. Terrence Ross on the Orlando side is only 4-4, and he's starting to see his minutes increase a little bit. I think he could be an intriguing play for sure on DraftKings, even though it's a slower paced game. When you can take advantage of guys that are underpriced, you want to do so, and Terrence Ross, in my opinion, is definitely underpriced. So he's someone that I'd be looking to here in this Orlando-Toronto matchup. And as far as anyone else on the Orlando side, like I said, with it being such a slow-paced game, it's a little difficult, but Mo Bamba and Cole Anthony continue to be the main candidates for the highest usage. So if you want to go to either of those guys, feel free. I just think there's some other games that are going to be better game environments with a little more up-tempo pace. Gary Trent Jr. seeing his minutes really take a hike up after Goran Dragic kind of experiment was cut, and they're going back to Gary Trent Jr., so he's an intriguing play as well. But like I said, not the best game environment. Second game on the slate tonight is going to be Indiana taking on Brooklyn. This game right now comes in with a 224 over-unders, 8-point spread in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. Expected to be a fairly decently paced game here. And Malcolm Brogdon is listed as out. Karis LeVert listed as questionable. So we should be able to see a lot more usage for KJ McConnell, Chris Duarte, and Brad Wanamaker. Specifically, Chris Duarte is going to be definitely an exciting play. This rookie's been playing very well in the season so far, and now he's going to get a big usage bump, and he's only 5'5". I think he could be an intriguing play for sure. Can really shoot the 3-ball. TJ McConnell going to be a tremendous play, especially on FanDuel. We'll talk about it over on FanDuel where you get the steals and blocks. TJ McConnell, guy I constantly seems like I'm talking about over there because he's a great example of a guy that's a better play on FanDuel, but can still get the job done on DraftKings as well at only 5'5" with his new role. I really like him at that price tag. And then expect for Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis to get some more usage as well. I mean, you take a guy out that's such on-ball dominant like Malcolm Brogdon and you replace him, these guys are going to get a bump in usage. So the whole Indiana side, I think, Karis LeVert listed as questionable. Just keep your eyes on that one. If he's able to make his debut, he'll be on a minutes limit, I'm sure. So it won't affect anyone too much. And on the Brooklyn side, there continues to be no Kyrie Irving, so that means Kevin Durant and James Harden are continuing to see all the usage. They're going to be great plays on any slate as long as the game stays close. They have tremendous upside. James Harden has had an absolute terrible start to the season, really hasn't been able to get it going. It'll be interesting to see if that affects his ownership, though, and honestly, at this 9.6 price tag in this game, I would be very intrigued to play him if he's going to be low-owned because we know James Harden has 70 DraftKings points upside. I'm sure he's been hearing it all over the media. Everyone's saying James Harden looking slow, not getting foul calls with the new calls in the NBA where he's, puts his arms out and flails up his arms. So a lot of people around the league are happy to see that. But I think it's just a matter of time before James Harden explodes, and you're going to want to be the one that's on him first when he does. It can win you a lot of money. So tonight could be the night on that forefront. Charlotte taking on Miami. This game, well, one other guy I want to mention in this game is Bruce Brown. Before we continue on, at only 3.8 in this game. He got 35 minutes last time out, 26 DraftKings points, but he is traditionally a very good fantasy point producer this season. He's had a .73 DK point per minute production so far. I know that he can get even better than that in this one. And then Joe Harris at 4.5 could also be an intriguing play as well on Brooklyn. So these guys are priced at a bit of a discount, on top of James Harden. But James Harden probably be my favorite play from this game on the Brooklyn side. I just think the recency bias and people thinking he's not going to show up could really result in his ownership being too low. Charlotte taking on Miami. This game comes in with a 220 over-under with a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Miami Heat. We do have some injury reports here. As far as Bam Adebayo, he's listed as questionable, but he is more so probable, so expect him to be in the game. Kyle Lowry, same rule is going to apply to him, although he's listed as questionable. And lastly, Terry Rozier on the Charlotte side is a true questionable, so keep an eye on that one. If he remains out, look for Kelly Oubre and Ish Smith to continue to get more minutes. So, PJ Washington, the last one, I don't think he's going to sit. Oh, he's doubtful, actually. So, sorry, he is doubtful. So, continuing to see PJ Washington out in this one could open up some more minutes in the rotation as well. So, yeah, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry. I'm a little concerned about the usage being too spread thin over here on this side of things. With Jimmy Butler at 8.7, he's starting to see his price tag dip down a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jimmy Butler's going to be a great play. As far as the game environment in this one and the total, a 220 over-under isn't the worst one on the slate, especially considering Miami. They're usually in lower total games. I'm just a little worried about Jimmy Butler's usage being taken away from Kyle Lowry and those kind of guys in this rotation. So it's a little bit scary to be targeting him overall, but he's been playing pretty well. I think that Kyle Lowry, his price tag, though, would be my favorite option here based on a projection aspect. He hasn't had the biggest game in the world so far. 24 and 29 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. I think it's just a matter of time before he goes out there and puts up 40+, and I think this could be the game that he does it. So Kyle Lowry would be a guy that I'm looking to. Tyler Hero at 6.6 off the bench. Continues to be a guy that could definitely get hot and go off for you in tournaments. He's a little too overpriced in my opinion right now, but he's capable of going out there and putting up 50 anytime. And LaMelo Ball on the other side for Charlotte's definitely my top option anytime he's going to take the court. His usage and on-ball responsibilities are just too high. He rebounds, he gets assists, he scores, he does it all. So I'm always going to have interest in LaMelo. And then the rest of the guys in Charlotte, you really can only put like one of these guys in your lineup if you're going to be playing them, a Miles Bridges or Gordon Hayward. I would recommend just going with one of them because it's going to be difficult for them to both get there, especially in this game environment. So these guys are definitely viable. Kelly Oubre Jr. at 5.9 is probably my favorite option based on his price tag and upside from returning a above ceiling return in tournaments. So that's where I'd be looking there. Next game on the slate, we have Sacramento taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. This game comes in right now with a 220 over-under, 2-point spread in favor of the Sacramento Kings. And I think this could be a game that goes over its total. I think this should be high scoring. I think it'll play fast. Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas really going off here early in the season. JV, a guy that I'm really excited to be playing a lot because he's consistently been a ridiculously good fantasy point producer that just had his minutes limited. And because of that, he hasn't been able to show his full upside. But the Pelicans have shown time and time again they're willing to play him all the way up towards, upwards of high 30 minutes. And if that's the case, JV is going to continue to crush. So I like him a lot. De'Aaron Fox, Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 6.7 as well is a guy that's seeing an increase in his role in New Orleans. So he continues to be a great play. De'Aaron Fox at 8.4. Going to be the main candidate to really go off on the other side if this game goes off. I mean, it's always going to be De'Aaron Fox, similar to like LaMelo Ball we just talked about. Everything goes through De'Aaron Fox in this offense. So for that reason, I am getting pretty excited about him in this game. And I do like Richaun Holmes as well on the Sacramento side, and I don't mind stacking them up. And Buddy Hield's grading out to be expected to be a pretty good play here as well. You get a little bit of a revenge narrative. He's only 6'2", absolute sharpshooter off the bench. He had 43 DraftKings points last time out. And then, as I mentioned, Richaun Holmes at 5'8". That's too cheap for Richaun Holmes. I mean, this guy's just a matter of time before he goes out there and puts up 50. He put up 45 in his first game out. He's put up 35 and 36 the last 2 times out. So I do have interest in Richaun Holmes for sure in this one. Dallas taking on Denver. This game right now comes in with a 219 over-under with a 2-point spread in favor of the Dallas Mavericks. So expect to stay close in this one. Nikola Jokic is listed as questionable. Definitely some big news to be keeping your eyes on. JaMychal Green, Jeff Green will see some more time if he's out. And then Kristaps Porzingis also listed as questionable, who missed the last game. So you're looking at more minutes for Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell, who Maxi Kleber is a guy I talked about in the last video having interest in, and he went out there and absolutely smashed his price tag. I said 3-2 was way too cheap. I mean, the guy went out there and put up 45 DraftKings points. So if you played Maxi Kleber last night, you had an amazing night. Not saying he's going to go out there and put up 45 again. It's very unlikely that he does, but I think it's pretty likely he can go out there and put up 30 for you, and he's only 3-3 on DraftKings. That's way too cheap. So, like Maxi Kleber. Definitely keep your eyes on the Nikola Jokic news. Luka Doncic was a guy that was really popular on last night's slate. In the sixth man, or whatever it was last night, the $555 contest I was in, it was like 70% Luka Doncic, and I faded him for Stephen Curry, so that went out. That went great for me. I just like the game environment better for Stephen Curry, and don't get me wrong, Luka Doncic is going to continue to be a great play. And the reason his ownership is so high is because when Kristaps out, Luka Doncic's usage goes way up, which is a very viable thing, and he just absolutely stunk it up last night. So maybe it's something where his ownership is lower than it should be tonight because of that. And if that's the case, I'll hop right on the Luka train, because if there's no Kristaps, his usage should go up in this one. So I definitely will have interest if there's no Kristaps. Definitely keep your eyes on that. And then, of course, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith will also get a bump up in usage in minutes if there is no Kristaps Porzingis. Jalen Brunson was my favorite of the bunch last month. Last night. And at 4.8 tonight, his price went down, so I'm going to like him again. Really going to like him at that price tag. And then as far as anyone else that's looking really good for me in this game, we got to keep an eye on that injury news with Nikola Jokic, but Michael Porter Jr. at 6'5", I do think continues to be priced pretty reasonably for his upside. I mean, we haven't seen him really go up there for too much, but it's just a matter of time before he goes out there for mid-40s in fantasy points, and that's going to pay off big for you at this current price tag, so definitely like him. The LA Clippers taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Last game on the slate. This game comes in right now with a 223 over-under with a 2.5-point spread in favor of the Portland Trailblazers. So, last game, highest total game on the slate outside of Indiana taking on Brooklyn, and we know that Paul George is going to be a great play in this one. There continues to be no Kawhi Leonard. His usage is going to be through the roof. They haven't been involved in close games the last 2 times out, so he hasn't had big games. People that don't really get the concept of blowouts and him being sat might look at this and say, game log watchers, we like to call them. They look and they go, oh, he only put up 39 and 33 DraftKings points the last 2 times out. He must really be sucking. That's not the case, just because the games weren't close. So Paul George, I'm going to like a lot. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum on the other side, of course, are 1A and 1B. Damian Lillard consistently seems to get off the slow starts in the NBA season. If you play DFS for quite some time, or you just play or watch track sports, you pick up on these trends. And Damian Lillard always seems like he starts off slow, and then at the end of the season, he starts going off and becomes an MVP candidate every year. So for the time being, I know that's kind of a silly thing to be relying on, but it's just true. Anecdotal data, CJ McCollum would be my favorite option of the two. You do get him at a pricing discount as well. And then keep your eyes on the Norman Powell news. If he's back, that's going to affect some usage here. And then on the Clippers side, as far as anyone else I'm interested in, Reggie Jackson, Eric Bledsoe, you could definitely be looking to them. They are getting the minutes, they are getting the usage, they are priced at a reasonable price tag. But it's mainly Paul George for me on the Clippers side. Serge Ibaka continues to be out, which is definitely relevant news, because Isaiah Hartenstein is going to get a big bump up in usage, and then we could also see Zubac have some big games here with him being out. So certainly keep that in mind. And then Luke Kennard, if the game goes slow, could certainly have a big game as well. He's seen 24 and 33 minutes the last 2 times out. Keep in mind, those were blowouts, so that the minutes aren't going to be quite as reliable there. But Isaiah Hartenstein at only 3.2 could be a guy that could pay off for you in tournaments. He could produce at a high rate. Not getting the most amount of minutes in the world, but he's very cheap. And as far as FanDuel, always like to pull this up, make sure that we're addressing if there's any pricing discrepancies. I talk about the guys that I like in general. I like them on both sites, but there are going to be pricing differences. Terrence Ross at only 4.2 over here. I talked about liking him on FanDuel. I do think that, on DraftKings on FanDuel, I do think he's an intriguing play as well. So he's a guy that I would talk about right off the bat. He has a lot of upside for that price tag. Robert Covington at only 4.3 on FanDuel is an intriguing option. He's a guy that's able to get a lot of blocks and steals. So on a site like FanDuel where you get that 3 points for each one of those, he could definitely pay off for you. We talked about TJ McConnell stepping into a starting role here. On FanDuel, I talked about liking him a lot. I will love TJ McConnell. Anytime he's going to be in the starting role, he's only 5'7". This guy is pretty much a lock to get you probably 3 combined blocks and steals. So going to like TJ McConnell on FanDuel a lot. Then as far as anyone else, Kyle Lowry we talked about for the Miami side. It's just a matter of time before he goes off. He's way too underpriced on FanDuel at only 5'9". I'm going to like him quite a bit here for sure. De'Aaron Fox at 8K in that fast-paced game. Domantas Sabonis at 9.3 and James Harden. We talked about them in that Brooklyn, Indiana game. So, yeah, FanDuel is kind of the same, interest as far as guys, obviously, in the spots. I just went up some guys that are underpriced, and that's my overall breakdown of the slate today. Before I let you guys go, I got to give you my lock of the night. Let's get into it. And my lock of the night tonight is going to be Paul George, taking on this Portland team, which isn't exactly the strongest defensively, and his role being so big with their no Kawhi Leonard. Really like this spot. We talked about it earlier in the video. The last 2 games, he's had really bad games, but that's not because of Paul George. That's because they were involved in blowouts. His minutes were down. Only about 39, 33 DraftKings points to perform similarly on FanDuel. And I think there might be some people that look at these game logs and think that Paul George has been struggling, and that's not the case. Just involved in some blowouts. I think this game's going to stay close. This is the one where Paul George goes off again here. Love this spot for Paul George. Get him in your lineups because he is my lock of the night. So there you have it, guys. Paul George, get him in your lineups. And that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That would be greatly appreciated. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.